We have a serious problem of people that do not like to take accountability for their actions in South Africa. These people among us include the communists, these so-called social justice warriors that pretend to be doing what they do for the people when really they're doing it for themselves. Welcome to Citizen Concerned, where we remind you to beware of the comrades. I'm Katlego. If you get something from this video, please like it, share it with others, and subscribe for more videos. So they have been crying and complaining, have they not? Oh, why did the ANC choose to work with the DA? The DA are racist. The DA are the National Party. The DA are representatives of apartheid and colonialism. Our gains, our transformation, blah, blah, blah. They complained, didn't they? Here is Lindiwe Sisulu, who is a madam in a double-story house, telling us that the ANC cannot work with the DA.
We need partners who are ideologically linked to our own ideology, partners who will be able to deliver on that which we have promised our people.
Yeah.
No one is further from that than the DA. Why would we go for the one party that is completely at variance with what we believe in?
Yeah.
Why do we need to be monitored? Why do we need to be monitored? The system that we have right now works very perfectly. We have our own system in which we account to our people what it is that we're doing and what it is that we're not doing. We don't need a class monitor from the DA. Why would we take one party that is so ideologically at odds with ourselves?
Imagine, her life is set. She gets paid millions and is living like a queen, and yet she wanted the ANC to continue on the same path they've always been on for the last 30 years. In what world does it make sense, Madam Sisulu, to continue on the same path you've been on as the ANC? What kind of a fool continues to do the same rubbish they've been doing, even when they can see that the results are not looking good? 30 years since the ANC came to power. What have you done for the people that has any meaningful contribution towards their lives? You think minimum wage and NHI as well as the RDP houses are the best the South African people can hope to achieve? SASSA grants, are those the only things you can conceive of in your brain for South Africans? To not waste any more time, I'll bring the leaders of the EFF to give you what this woman really stands for. Here's Juju to guide you in order to understand what this social justice warrior is known for.
They are in a permanent competition, the Sisulus, the Mandelas, and the Tambos. They think they are some royalty. And they are not a royalty. There's no certain exclusive families which must produce presidents. So she thinks she's doing it for her father because the father could not be, I can be. And then would have closed that chapter as a family. Otherwise, what does Lindiwe stand for, Bana? Except being a good mother and a good sister. Yeah, not personally, there's no problem. She's a very good person, but not for president. And what gives her that sense of entitlement is family name. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Lindiwe doesn't have her struggle credentials. She's got her own independent struggle credentials. They can be traced. But there is no exclusive idea she represents. I'm trying to think every time she says, it's a must. Is that a message? It's a must. I'm trying to think, what does ideologically it's a must represent? And I'm struggling. So let people be celebrated for their ideas.
That's right, South Africa. This woman is simply a daughter of a famous person. She has nothing except her name to throw around now. The most important thing is to note what the three biggest parties after the ANC were saying about the ANC before the elections. Firstly, let's start with the MK party.
You're asking me about the Cyril Ramaphosa ANC. We won't engage with the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa. We can have a discussion with the ANC. But the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa? How is that possible?
In reality, how does that work? Cyril Ramaphosa is the leader of the ANC.
We will not engage in a discussion with the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa.
Which ANC?
The ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa. We can have a discussion with the ANC. We'll engage with the ANC, but not the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa.
Which one are you going to?
Which the current ANC is under who?
So are you saying, as long as Cyril is the leader of the ANC,
we won't engage with the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa. It's bought. The presidency was bought. It's a fact. So how are we going to engage the president of a traitor who is bought?
So the question is direct. It's saying as long as it's
and my response is direct.
You're not going to engage.
My response is direct. It's clear. We're not going to engage with the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa.
Do you have such a shopping list?
Clearly, they didn't want anything to do with the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa.
The fact of the matter is we could be in a position very soon where we will make the determination who becomes president, and whoever becomes president will be told that you're going to give President Zuma presidential pardon, and when he gives the presidential pardon, we'll bring President Zuma back in his National Assembly, put him back as president. Simple as that, before we even change the constitution.
And we know that the ANC wanted to keep President Cyril Ramaphosa, right?
Ramaphosa is the president of the ANC, and if you come to us with those demands, forget it. If you come to us with a demand that Ramaphosa must step down as a president, that is not going to happen. We've got no such mandate. We are not going to engage with political parties on the basis that we don't want to talk to so and so and so. We're not going to do that. Because we don't run political parties. You asked me about MK party. We've got many reservations about that party, but we will talk to them. If they want to work with us, we will map out how we want to do, but no political party will dictate terms like that to us as the ANC. We will not. That is a no-go area to everyone. It's a no-go area. It's a no-go area. You come to us with that demand, forget. And I've heard some of you murmuring even in the bathrooms.
I mean, here he is. What about the EFF?
I'm prepared to give the EFF vote to the ANC. Nationally, if he doesn't get 50%.
And you don't need that glory of being a deputy president.
No, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Then I'll make one demand. Make Floyd Shibambo Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
What about the DA?
Because the one thing South Africa can't afford in this election is to get rid of the ANC and then bring in a government that is even worse. And the one thing that will seal South Africa's fate of doom would be if we end up with a national coalition between the RET faction and the ANC, the EFF, and Mr. Zuma's new party, the MKP. And the Brent's poll shows that MK is already polling at 13% nationally. It means that they're going to be the third largest party in the country. The EFF is only in fourth place with 10%. Ladies and gentlemen, this doomsday coalition is a clear and present danger to the democratic future of our country.
Clearly, the DA understood what it was fighting for. The DA wanted to win as the DA or as a multi-party charter. But failure to do that, they understood that the ANC would be wounded but still be a big party.
Post-2024, working back from the nightmare scenarios for South Africa. Nightmare 1, ANC retains a majority, although slightly, and continues along the same path. And as I said in the interview, we're going to head towards the same sort of desperation you saw by ZANU-PF, more radicalism, more attempts to be populist. And I think that that would be dangerous for South Africa. Nightmare scenario 2, the EFF and the ANC tie up. And then we're on the fast track towards Venezuela, Zimbabwe, many of those other countries. So we've got to see those two nightmare scenarios and work backwards from there. And the point I was making is that we're going to be faced with a number of choices where we're going to have to take the least worst option. And that will be determined by where the chips fall in that election.
The DA's warnings to South Africa has been simple. The ANC is bad, but the MK party and the EFF are worse. If you watch my channel, you know I have no mercy for the communists and the people that are here to dismantle the model we have right now. You know I hate political parties that are racist, and you know that I hate parties that are anti-free markets. I hate parties that love Cuba or Stalin and Mao. So the DA said what it wanted. The DA understood that if the multi-party charter failed to get 51%, it would have meant that coalitions would be inevitable. The most important thing in that scenario would be to put all our pride aside and rush to work with the ANC in order to stop the EFF and the MK from working with the ANC. That was a simple mission. They understood the assignment. So the multi-party charter failed, and guess what? The DA worked hard to lure the ANC. What about the other parties that are so-called the progressives, the EFF and the MK party? Well, the MK party never showed any effort to even try to work with the ANC. Who knows what the EFF did? But later on, we saw Julius Malema begging ANC to work with it.
We want to work with the ANC. If there's any party that we can work with and work properly, is the ANC. Because ANC, when compromised, is not arrogant. And ANC, when it doesn't have absolute majority, and it happens that you share power with them, they never recover from losing power.
Well, it's not hard to find out what happened. The EFF clearly failed to make sure to secure the deal to work with the ANC. They had the assumption, just like the MK party.
A number of our party leaders have received calls, WhatsApps, and so on and so forth from leaders of the ANC, and particularly those who sit in the NEC. But the reality is the following. We've never received a formal invite or in the form of a letter that says, we want to have discussions and engage in coalition talks with yourselves. Mm-hmm. That has not happened. No, engagements do not necessarily mean a meeting where we sit across the table with them. Engagements mean exactly what I'm referring to. These are overtures. These are just engagements where, they've called us, they've called certain leaders of our party, to get a sense as to what the climate is to engage in discussions. And that's just been that. Okay. We have not received a formal letter. We have communicated. I myself know that I met with one of the leaders within the NEC and said, let's quell these perceptions that we are seemingly arrogant and not willing to engage in discussions. No, we're willing to engage in discussions. The question is, can they formalize it? And that's what we're waiting for.
They all had this misguided idea that the ANC would be so desperate to work with them. They would keep begging. Here's a fellow communist from the SACP to explain to us what happened.
We fired a minority ANC-led government with the features of the government of national unity. We calculated the seat distribution in the National Assembly and believed that there was permutations among the political parties in the National Assembly to form such a government excluding the DA and the MKP. However, during the process of engagements, there were difficulties and other parties put forward untenable demands without guarantees, and others were hell-bent on destroying the African National Congress as part of their strategy, improving the precarity of the situation and the balance of power as represented by the distribution of seats in the National Assembly, and recognizing the difficult situation we were in. Because while the ANC emerged still as the largest political party by electoral support, as it has been the case since April 1994. This time around, it did not reach the required 50% plus one to form an outright majority government. And how it moved or how it were to move was not only dependent on what it wanted to do or what we as alliance partners wanted to do, but was also determined by the attitudes of others in the process of engagements. This is what led to the situation that we saw on Friday, which we didn't prefer ourselves.
It's a movie, is it not? The smaller parties did exactly as they were promising. They had crazy demands to make against the ANC. And with that, it becomes clear who fumbled the bag, as the young ones say. It's not difficult to figure out what caused the ANC to work with the DA. Take a look at this.
A statement that was released yesterday from a group of organizations under the Progressive Caucus. This is a group of political parties, including the EFF, the ATM, I understand, is part of it, the UAT as well. They had promised us a briefing on what they make of the ongoing developments.
This morning, the ANC sent the guideline document to AL-JAMA individually and other parties which were part of the initial discussions with the ANC have never received that particular document.
When we had our negotiations with the ANC, we made it clear that the voters gave the ANC a mandate to form a minority government, and that it was easy for them to get the other 10% from other progressive parties. So AL-JAMA is part of the Progressive Caucus, which we formed last night.
On the night before the National Assembly, that is when the EFF joined hands with a bunch of Smolanyana parties to stop the ANC from working with the DA. There was only one problem. It was a few hours before the Parliament session was to begin, and the swearing in of members of Parliament was about to take place.
So we have a Progressive Caucus, and we hope that the ANC will join this Progressive Caucus. And we may have a new name called a National Front. And the National Front is to make sure that those rooted in apartheid principles do not govern. I think we have written to the ANC to meet, and I hope they will meet us later this morning before we start with the proceedings to elect a speaker.
No, thank you very much. We as the Economic Freedom Fighters also want to confirm that we are part of the Progressive Caucus here in the 7th Parliament of the Republic of South Africa. And we collectively are now talking to all the forces to say that let's constitute a progressive government in South Africa instead of collaboration with political parties that, as the AL-JAMA president is saying, are rooted in colonialism and apartheid. So we have, of course, written collectively to the African National Congress to say we are going to negotiate as a collective, not as individual parties, because they have met us individually and they made a commitment that before Parliament elects the presiding officers and a president, they are going to come back to us individually. And it appears that they have not come back to all of us to say as to what is to be done, how do we proceed.
These fools overplayed their hand when the truth is the ANC did not have only one option. They played themselves and failed to realize that the DA was only playing against them at the end of the day. The DA hates the ANC as many of us do, but the DA knows who is more dangerous. The DA knows that the ANC, the EFF, and the MK party would have been a match made in hell.
Obviously, we could not sit on the sidelines as the Democratic Alliance and watch a coalition develop between the radical socialists in MK and the EFF and the ANC form. So we got into the arena, we entered into talks with the ANC and other parties that believe in the Constitution, believe in the Bill of Rights, to be able to form a bulwark at the rational centre to prevent a slide towards the radical policies that we've seen there.
The MK party and the EFF are angry at the ANC for choosing to work with the DA, but they pushed the ANC into the DA's hands. Good for the rest of us. Too bad for the racist communists who know nothing but corruption and hatred. Don't fall for the lies from these people. Yes, the DA was funded by whoever funded it, but the MK party and the EFF were also funded by whoever funded them too. What happened here was negotiations and real politics. In the game of politics, if you don't offer something, you do not get into power. That's it. Now these communists want to act like this was so pre-planned. Boo-hoo, you lost. Go home and deal with it. They failed to capitalize on their winnings. The majority of South Africans supported the ANC, EFF, and MK party, which means they are still unaware of the dangers of these three parties. And so we need to keep sharing the videos far and wide and make more people aware. Although the EFF and MK had the numbers, what did they do? They failed to work together and allow their hate for one another to take over instead. The DA did what was pragmatic, finish and clear. They saved us from what may have been chaos brewing. Well done, DA. Congratulations. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm Katlego. This is Citizen Concerned. And until next time, beware of the comrades.